Hi, I'm Cris. This video, I have been wanted to do this video for a long time. This video is gonna kind of go back to where it all started for me. How it all started, how did I get into this kind of video stuff and stuff I'm doing today with 3D modeling, 2D pictures and all kind of stuff. We're gonna go from the very start to today. So thank you for taking your time, because this is probably gonna be a pretty long one, but to be fair and square, it also takes a lot of time to capture many decades into one file, one segment, so to say. Bear in mind, that is not an easy thing to do, and I've been trying to script this and go as smooth as I can. Alright, but enough of me talking about that. So we're going back in 1987 or 1989. I think somewhere there. Alright. Anyhow, I was on the road trip to East Germany with my parents, and we were passing some kind of computer store in Germany where it said like fractals on a magazine. Oh boy, I wanted that magazine really bad, but my parents weren't in the mood really to go there. Nah, they was in a hurry to get to Berlin, I think, or if it was Hamburg. I'm not quite sure, but anyhow, I wanted to go there, and I begged so hard that my fingers were white and bleeding. That's about how much I wanted that goddamn magazine. Anyhow, my parents didn't want two boys fighting in the back of the car, so they kind of pulled back, drove there, to realize that the damn store was closed. But it didn't stop me. I was whining, started to go crocodile tears. No, seriously, I didn't go that long. But anyhow, let's just shorten this up. I got the magazine, and when I looked into the magazine, it was about fractals, of course, how to program fractals on the Commodore 64 machine. And I was crazy. I just wanted to go back to Sweden again and get into that damn basement and just start to code. But that did not happen. And of course, I'm pretty happy with that, because I had a lovely time in Germany, and I went to all kind of places. But when I got back home, I spent like 2 days in the basement trying to write that thing into the basic basement. And that didn't go too well, because once I got the program done, I didn't understand what I was doing, because the whole thing was written in German, of course. And the German language wasn't really something I knew too much about. Well, I could of course guess and draw parallels to the Swedish language, but anyhow, I assisted my German friend's dad, who helped me to translate it into English and Swedish, of course. He was kind of strict, but it was alright. And since I was so into computers, my girlfriend at that time, her dad was he was a very talented programmer, and he had kind of accelerated that program to the Commodore 128 machine, and he kind of took it a bit further. He wrote some saving routines, so you can save down the algorithms, and you can save down the pictures to COLA format, I think. But I gave up, because it was really advanced to me to even understand what I was doing, because fractals, I mean, hey, come on, I think it was like 12, 13. And for a boy in that age, fractals are really hard to understand. But I didn't give up, really. It was like a challenge for me. And I went back to school, and my mathematical teacher, she really knew that something was going on, because I wasn't really interested in school. But she kicked me in the butt, so to say, and told me that, hey, if you want to get somewhere here, you need to focus, you need to get your things together, you need to, put some effort into especially math and physics, because, well, she was educating that, so of course she had a special burn for that. And I did. I took her advice very seriously, because, well, she was kind of hot, I can tell you. And well, Google, let's not Google up her, I mean, come on. But the thing was that her husband, he worked at the university at the time, and he was really a mathematical genius. He's a freak in math, and he was also into fractals. So one time I don't know, it was coincident or if it was meant to happened. She accidentally, and I don't think it was a goddamn accident at all, but she had a book about fractals with her into her other piles of book, and accidentally I noticed it, and I wanted it so badly, and I took that book from her, or actually I lent it from her, and well, that's all she wrote, so to say. One thing led to another thing. I started to read that book, and it was really complicated. And I asked her 1,000 questions about fractals, and she was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. This is very, very much out of my range." But, however, my husband, he knows very much about that. So, what happens was, husband meets young students to talk about math and fractals and nature. Yeah. Anyhow, I was very convinced that I wanted to convert these fractals from the book into the Commodore 64's BASIC, and that was something I did around 1990, and I actually managed to do it, and that was a really well, it was a really milestone for me, actually, to be able to do something that I wanted to do for the past 2 years. So in 1991 I got my first PC. I built it up from scratch because you know how it is. That was a very old 286 computer without any FPU. Later on I upgraded to 386 computer with an FPU. It was a Cris, actually, and I started to explore this little baby. This is FractInt, one of my favorites. I started to explore it because it was very close related to that Commodore 64 program. That I am afraid the source is gone by now, but if I find it, I will absolutely do some kind of documentary about it, because that's a real adventure. It was, like I said before, it was probably that little fractal in the fracture of the fractal that made me go to where I am today. I think it's interesting. But anyhow, FractInt. This is a port of FractInt that is compiled, and it's really complex. But anyhow, I let it run in the background here because it's fun to have some kind of entertainment while I am babbling, ranting here a little bit. So I started to play around with FractInt and found it to be really cool, interesting, and this opened up very many new fractals that I wasn't aware existed. So it even made me more hungry, and I started to explore another program called Trace, which was an early fractal program. But Fractal no, sorry, it wasn't Ray Tracer. I'm sorry. But one thing led to another thing. I got hands on something called the DKB Trace, which later on not manufactured, but transcribed into something called Prisms of Vision Ray Tracer. But meanwhile, I compiled my own tracer. I wrote my own fractal tracer. I wrote my own fractal sketcher, and wrote many tools for both the Prisms of Vision and some other various programs. In 1993, I upgraded to 486 computer, and I can tell you that it was a dream to do that, because it opened up many new, well, I could get access to many more programs that wouldn't run on my old computer, so to say. So what happens was that I started to go into 3D Studio, not Max, not anything like that. It was plain 3D Studio. And 3D Studio 3, Revision 3, opened up many new opportunities for me. It was really nice to have a stable 3D package to work with. And later on I upgraded to 3D Studio 4, version 4, and that took a real turn because they had opened up something called IPAS routines. And this is kind of what made me go to where I am today, to work with VFX. And VFX is something really nice. I'm doing that all the time. It's video effects, so it's kind of like, yeah. But to go there, I mean, today when we are working with all kind of programs, you know, the 3D packages you have today, 3D Studio, Cinema, and whatever, Houdini, I don't know. You have something called modeling. A modeling where you can model things, but back in the days, you didn't have that. I'm gonna show you how it looked. Like, this is kind of a very easy scene. I usually call it Hello World. Hello World. So this was what you had to do back in the days. You had to include, this is written in Powerplay, but all the script language, the parsing things for like Vivid, for Bob, for Rach, whatever you could came across or actually take notice of, you had to use the script language, and that was kind of frightening to begin with. But once you kind of you really cracked into that shell of the egg and you started to extract yolk and all kind of things from it, you got something that was really amazing. And this is we're gonna go through here. First, what you did first was to include your colors, your materials, your predefined scene elements, and you had the texture, the shapes, the glass, and inside these include files you could like do all kind of things. And this was just to save you from writing a whole Bible, so to say, in your scene, your primer scenes. So all the secondary scenes, or it depends on how you look at it, they had all kind of predefined or your own textures, objects. But anyhow, let's get to the point here. The first thing you had to like define the camera where it should look, where its location should be, and where it should look at. So if you had it like location here and it should look that way, you had to define it. And then you came to the light source, you had to define everything. So this is kind of what you're doing inside the modeling today, but here you had to write everything in this. Yep, you had light and all kind of things, but there were more. I mean, today we're speaking about focal blur and all, the fancy things that all the amazing 3D packages are offering you. But to be quite honest, that's nothing new to me, because, or us who's come from the old school, so to say, because here you can define the sphere with ambient. Ambient is kind of, the room light, and diffuse. You had all kind of things. Pigment, that is like the texture you're defining up, and we could also go a bit further to declare an object to be the light source. And here you declare something. You declare the light blob to be an union, and a union means that it's combined by many objects. And here you tell it to merge. You're gonna merge the sphere with the cylinder, and the cylinder is this and that, and you scale it, you transform it, or translate it actually. You put on the texture, the pigment, the finish kind of, like if you're like a carpenter, it's like the sandpaper when you're filing down the surface to give it that glance or give it, the roughness or whatever you want. So yeah, and here also is a kind of amazing thing, textures, but no, it's not texture, this is all procedures. So what I'm trying to achieve here is that the way I'm working today is, like I said before, I wrote my own iPass routines and these procedural things, and I'm using very little textures in today's modelings. But we are gonna take, I'm going to show you a little bit also what I am doing, because this is probably something that, what's going on? Well, to get some kind of inspiration, this is something. This is an artwork that I made, but we're gonna take here. This is some kind of, these are my kind of pictures. I really like to, go to details and zoom in and really work with the perfect, you can see the perfect moments, I'm calling it. And here's another example. of me in the naked nature, so to speak. I like to pay attention to details, like this little crystal here. It's just simply amazing. We're gonna zoom it up a little bit. You can see that. And yeah, we can see more. This is a close-up of a plant, and here are some other things just to play around with the light. And this, like I said, this is something, yeah. And this is also working with nature. You can see that we have trapped an insect here, and we have built a home for it. So it's kind of amazing. And this is also, look at this. This one is actually laying eggs inside this wooden thing here. And this one is huge. It's a huge monster actually, but I love it. And also here, details. A little insect here. I think it's like some kind of butterfly or something. And here's also the nature. I love the nature. And this is also some kind of recent pictures I've taken. I just love it. But like I said, but to come to what I'm doing today as a freelancer, I'm working with cinema, of course. And this is a recent scene that I'm working on. The mission here is to kind of if we're looking at the material, not the material, but the scene itself, I'm using V-Ray at the moment. And this is where I'm getting to. Most people think that when you're opening up the actual material here, if we're looking at the material, they get shocked because there are so many parameters here. But for me, remember that little text document I showed you. I'm gonna show it again. If we're looking here, we can kind of see some similarities about what we're having here, and that is exactly my point. When you're coming from the old school and you have been doing things from scratch, this is nothing new. This is, I mean, transculants and everything, luminosity. I mean, this is kind of basic stuff, but it's a new era, and I like this. I like this very much. We can take a look at another material here. This is more advanced. So yeah, this is what I'm working with now. And also, if we're looking into the we are jumping back a little bit. Remember that I said that I was working in 3D Max 4, and what really inspired me to go on, or not go on, but to really take that step from working with text editors and these hardcore ray tracers was that you had more access to faster computers. It's not computer, but it was faster because it was compiled in a different way, and you can use it on the Windows, and you could work hand in hand with Photoshop and all kind of stuff. But what really made me take that step was those plugins. And later on I started to work with plugins myself inside 3D Studio Max. And this is a more recent version of 3D Studio Max, and I'm just gonna try to bind something together here. Alright? What really made me go into this world was that we were exploring more particle systems, and you could do so many things with them. You could make all kind of things, and even in the rendering options, you had environments here that started to, get more advanced. You could have like afterburn, you can have things affecting your scene. And I was doing a lot of post-process things, and something is called compositing nowadays. So this was really nice, really nice. I was totally blown away that you had all this inside a modern 3D packaging system. And like I said, if we are looking at some particle systems here, these are, as a matter of fact, before we even had like the 2018 versions, we had a much older one, version 4, and it was, I don't know what they were called. the software company, but they were really focused in making particle systems, and I felt in love with that at once. So super spray and these particle arrays, here you can kind of, make an array, and you can drive it with all kind of particles, and we can just let's see if we can play this. It doesn't show anything, but you get the idea. This was also giving me a lot of freedom, and I could really start to make things like a snow particle. I mean, this was just fantastic, and this coming from, the old school scene, this would have taken me ages to do with Povray, for instance. I mean, if I don't know if it's even possible, but this was really nice, and I did a lot of things here with these kind of things. But also a lot of other things were transpiring, and we were moving into another software package called Cinema. I showed you Cinema, but yeah, Cinema, and I think that Cinema kind of, for me, it kind of glided back into, or actually to where it all began, working with organic stuff, because I think that Cinema is more organic than 3D Studio Max is. So I have been more or less working, like the last 10 years I've been working more with Cinema, because I think that it has more like the structure is better, and more all kind of things, and I see like a little bit of common ground with the old ray tracers. But when it comes to really nice effects, and I mean, you have really, I mean, you get some crazy things like the Phoenix and Krakatoa. These things are just crazy. If we just go, we can take a new scene here, just new all. Now don't say, I'm gonna show you that if we just smoke simulator here, you have so many things to work with here. So yeah, this is kind of crazy. Well, this didn't show you too much, did it? But anyhow, you get the point. I mean, you can simulate all kind of things here, and this is also my field. So still, I like it. But also, one other thing that came rolling into my life was this program, RealFlow. RealFlow is a really nice system to simulate all kind of things, and here is just some kind of playground that I'm working with. And I think that RealFlow is, for me, very powerful. You see, it's really fast, and you can zoom in here, you can go really detail on the and the system itself is really fast. So I kind of like RealFlow, and it's also very dynamic, and it goes back in time. I can totally see why I choose RealFlow to work with particles and flow systems, because it has some similarities to my old school plugins like from the Silicon Garden. They made a lot of nice plugins for 3D Studio 4. Also had Yoast Group, who made a lot. They made particles, and they made like similar construction systems. So yeah, that's about the 3D things. But I also make things in After Effects, because this is my playground, and After Effects, I've been using it since version, I think it's like version 4 or something like that. So I know my After Effects very well, and this is kind of some kind of playground things I'm working with. This is basically just Plexus with some stuff going on. It's kind of it eats a lot of your GPU and CPU, and now it's eating me even more because I have tons of programs open in the background. But like I said, this is how things has been developing for me, coming from the old text workflow. I mean, if we're going back again, these kind of things, working with all kind of crazy camera moments, setting up everything from scratch to more complex scenes that we had in here, and also the cinema scene here. So I think that it's a bit of a journey, and I just wanted to share it with you, so you can see how things has been going my way, and I hope that this can inspire you or make you do something similar to what I'm doing. And like I said, this is not my living. I don't do this for a living. This is just my side project, because I have another job, so to say, that I go to every day. And I think that if you looked at my pictures that I showed you, you can see what I'm doing. I'm not gonna spoil the beans too much, but I can just say that what you also need is creative. To be a creative guy or girl or whatever you want to spend your creativity on, you need to have something to... It's like if you're having a puzzle, you're getting a puzzle, but sometimes the pieces are blank, and you need to fill the pieces before you start to build a puzzle, if you're getting what I mean. And I think that for me also, I am a musician and I do music every day. I have always something going on in the musical world. So I think that you have to have the inspiration sources to be able to do more. And I believe that you need to do more things to be a creative person, but you don't have to do many things. You gotta do smaller things, but try to work harder in these regions, so to say, or just, it's like a plug. You need to plug to get forward, and also you need to extract what you have plugged out. It's like to have an extraction board. So anyhow, I really, again, thank you for watching and listening to me talking about my process here, and I hope that this has been giving you something. Because after all, I love doing these kind of things, and I have done quite some stuff, and people are always asking me, how did you get started with this? So this is my way of showing you, this is where I am today. How I got there is the story I just told you. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions, you know where to put them. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, or insult it. It's 2019, you can crush it, you can do what... I just wish you an amazing good day. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in another one. Bye.